Well, folks, we were in another crisis, actually many crises, but one of them is the memory crisis. And if you've looked at the prices of RAM, it is through the roof. And that's because AI data centers are kind of grabbing up all the RAM that they can get to power the billionaire's quest to take all of our jobs. And due to that, well, the consumer suffers and supply and demand kicks in, and we pay more for RAM. And even the industry isn't immune to this. They're paying more for it as well, unless they're the big guys who have a contract that don't pay nearly what we pay, or even what some minor companies pay. So just keep that in mind, because now we're going to talk about what we saw come out from Eben Upton.
This is the single hardest decision I've ever had to make in my business career, and certainly in my time at Raspberry Pi. What am I not sorry we didn't do? I'm not sorry that we didn't float the price.
And it seems like every crisis, he takes advantage of it and he goes and says, listen, supply and demand, folks, we're going to have to raise our prices. And if you don't believe me, one only need check right here. Look at this right here, memory crisis. But even before that, what did we see during COVID? Supply chain shortages and our first ever price increase. This was back in 2021. Now, if you know anything about Eben Upton, you know, this is about the time that I think he kind of did his great change, in my opinion, because this was a man that founded the Raspberry Pi Foundation with a mission to get these computers in underserved kids' hands, for example, and communities that couldn't afford big computers. And for like $20, they could get a very capable platform where they could learn everything from networking, programming, IoT, physical computing, security. I mean, really, as a platform, the Raspberry Pi, in my opinion, still even to this day, is probably one of the best platforms for learning things like that in Linux. If you're trying to get into the IT world, this is a wonderful platform that can take you in many different directions, but also give you that really good holistic view of how it all works together. In fact, I still have 6 Raspberry Pis that run my entire home lab here in this server. It makes no noise, it's beautiful, it's low power, I absolutely love it, but at this price, I don't know if it's something that I can recommend anymore. And that's because of his next crisis that he's responding to, which is the memory crisis. And you can see here, he says 2 months ago, we warned you about this. Look, we're gonna have to increase our pricing because of the memory shortage. And they are saying no change in the 1 gigabyte bottle. They are saying $15 in the 4 gigabyte. These are in terms of price increases, and 16 gigabyte model is gonna go up $60. So that means you're gonna be paying about $205, realistic, probably $230 to $240 once you include things like shipping. But he does say this: 2026 looks like another challenging year for the memory pricing, but we are working hard to limit the impact. We've said it before, but we'll say it again. The current situation is ultimately a temporary one, and we look forward to unwinding these prices increases once it abates. So again, I've seen, you know, Eben kind of lean into crises, and what does he do? He kind of responds by raising the prices. But the thing about Eben Upton, there's another problem. He had this mission, this altruistic mission. I was his educator at the time, a tech ed teacher, and I'm also a maker. And I remember COVID, we couldn't get the things. And one of the narratives that came out of it was an optics that looked really bad for him, is that he was kind of hoarding stock or diverting stock mainly to industry. And that upset a lot of us makers and people like me, who actually introduced industry to Raspberry Pis, and they started using them in their products. In fact, there's one big creator that kind of held his feet to Eben Upton's feet to the fire and kind of questioned him about this. And this was like right after COVID. And he was like, no, I still know where I came from. I still got respect for you guys for helping us. I know you put us on the map. But then 3 months later, what does he do? Well, he decides to take the Raspberry Pi and split it into an for-profit arm and a non-profit arm. And oh yeah, by the way, the for-profit arm is going to have an IPO. It's going to be publicly traded, have stock. So now we're answering to, you know, people like stockholders and people like board members who probably have trouble double-clicking.
So Eben, what's the future of this business? Because when I was reading sort of your prospectus, you know, you're very much known as a company aimed at hobbyists, enthusiasts at this point, but something like 72% of your unit shipments now are towards the industrial and embedded segment of the market.
We've seen adoption across a very, very broad range of markets, from digital signage to industrial control. So I think we're going to see more of that. I think the challenge for us is to stay faithful to the roots of Raspberry Pi in that enthusiast and educational movement, even as we do more in industrial and embedded.
So I think Eben comes across as, hey, he started in a really good place, but now it's kind of looking like, did maybe he use that? Did maybe he use us makers and us educators to like put him on the map to get into a place where he can buy a Lamborghini or a second home? That's kind of the creepiness that is a little bit of a narrative in some of these subcultures like myself that believe, hey, man, I kind of feel like this was a little bit of a shady move. And oh, yeah, as an educator, like, man, hey, remember those kids, man? Remember those kids over there in Africa that can't afford a fucking $160 or $205 for a computer? Like, that's ridiculous. So let's just take a look at another editorial here. This is by XDA. As a editorial just says, raises prices on several models with an unusual promise. Now, that unusual promise was just, Eben Upton saying, yeah, bro, like, okay, we'll roll it back, whatever it may be. So they go through, and I think one of the things to pull out from this article, at least to me, was what they say about these price increases. So remember, we saw that one article about the price increase during COVID, and now we see this. December last year, they made an announcement that they were increasing their prices for hardware costs $25. So the 16 gig went from $120 to $145. Now, if you put that together with the latest price increase, and he does a good job of explaining this in pretty much plain English, that's an astonishing $85 increase in just 2 months. To put that in perspective, that's more than 70% increase for the top model in a couple of months. 70% increase. So I don't know about you guys, but that is, to me, it seems like he's getting greedy, he's gouging, he's lost his way, he's lost his mission, and that's fine. Listen, as a business owner, I respect that. You got to make hay when the sun shines. But I kind of miss the old Upton. I miss that old Eben Upton. That's for sure. That guy was a good guy, and it's tough to watch when you get success, and I've seen it in my life for a lot of people, and they get some money, how this becomes the motive, and it can overshadow, or at least in some cases even step on the many really good reasons for starting in the first place. And I think he's really lost his way. I think he's leaning into like that crowd, right? He wants to be that type of guy, and it's unfortunate because he used to be one of us, and I don't think he is one of us. And at $215, $230, once you get it shipped, whatever it is, you can start looking at mini computers. And look, mini computers, they've gone up, but you can still get them like $250, $230, get them on sale. They're going to have something like an N100 in it, which is like 4x more powerful than what the Raspberry Pi has in it. They're going to have things like NVMe drives. They're going to have the ability to hook up SATA drives in some cases. They're going to have NIC cards, maybe even to like 2.5 gig NIC cards on it. So, there's a lot of advantages. It's going to take more power. It's going to be a little bit bigger, but you're going to pay the same amount of price. So now the advantages of something like this, I don't know, they start to wane, especially at that price. And if you are interested, I did a review on the Zima board 2, and that's 16 gigabytes as an N105, I think, 105N Intel. 4 cores, four threads, but it also has the ability to hook up any type of PCIe card. So then you can hook up whatever you want, but it also has onboard SATA, which is really cool. So there's a lot of different advantages there. Yeah, that model's 300, but again, you can do a lot more with it. It's more powerful. Especially with that card, that PCIe slot. I mean, you can hook up a graphics card. You can hook up more NIC cards. And oh, by the way, it's got Ethernet ports that are 2.5, 2 of them. So when you start matching that up, this starts to be more like a premium brand. So we went in just a few short years, like Eben Upton led this to like this beautiful story, I'm trying to just get, technology in kids' hands to, probably getting corrupted like by money like most folks do. And now this is going to become like a premium or luxury brand. That's now how I view this. Open source, altruistic, feeling good. I love it. Rah, 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 kumbaya type thing to, my God, another one's gone by the wayside, huh? Another one's fell into that greed. Another one's forgotten about where they came from. Man, just a shame to see all around. And at the end of the day, who pays for it? The consumers. Because remember what I said in the beginning. All those big guys like Amazon, Google, everyone else, they don't pay the same price as we do because they're buying it in bulk. So this really does start to feel like a gouge and a bit of, hey, I'm catering to my shareholders and my board members. I'm no longer catering to the original mission, and worse, catering to the people like me and you who put them on the map.
I think it's very unfair of you not to let me rewind history by 3 years, because that's what you actually need to do in order to make a difference.